afternoon, everybody. Ben here, and today we're going to be updating some of our elections, actually all of them. We're going to talk about some of the gubernatorial elections and kind of where I'm looking and leaning. Normally, I would show you polls, but doing this more compact format where I'm covering both gubernatorial and Senate elections, I can really only give quick little blurbs. I can't go super in depth. The other thing is I'm going to try and be a little bit more compact about these things. So we'll do that. That way I don't waste too much of your time. The other reason I'm doing it today is because I've got a lot of real life stuff to do. Some friends invited me out to dinner, so I'm going to take them up on that. I got a lot of shit to write. For those of you who like my content this much or that much, whatever, I have a Patreon. It's down in the description, as always. If you want to donate, donate. If you don't, you don't. Anyway, so we're going to go and cover look at the Senate elections, and up until now, I've been double-checking against the deluxe version of 538's forecast, but now I'm moving into the classic, and about a week out, so around the last week of October, or pretty much next week and the week after, I'm going to focus more on the light, just because I think this is the right time to kind of transition from focusing on from including fundamentals to including and focusing on just the polls. And this is kind of where I double check. And here's one place where I'm going to disagree with the polls. Or not the polls, but Nate Silver in Nevada. So we look at polling, and yeah. Dean Heller has had a very good series of polls, starting with this Ipsos poll from mid-September. This poll showing Jackie Rosen ahead, okay, fine, that's within the margin. And then we've got a Marist College poll, a Siena College, and an Emerson College. All of these three all favor Dean Heller by varying amounts, all the way up, from 1 to 7%. That should indicate that Dean Heller has an advantage, but we have to remember Nevada early polling tends to favor the Democrats. But since this is such a good week of polls, and it seems to show that there is a swing in momentum towards Heller, I'm still only going to lean this to Rosen. This race is a pure toss-up. Okay, so we're going to go back to the national forecast. I haven't seen anything that would indicate this is more than a tilt towards Kyrsten Sinema, but I've had it as leans, and I want to see a little bit more before I put it in that true toss-up category. McSally definitely has a chance, and I would consider it a true toss-up. Back in North Dakota, I'm actually moving this into the likely for Kevin Cramer category, because polling has shown that Cramer is crushing Heitkamp, and the momentum has been in his favor. Plus, Heitkamp's no vote it kind of sealed it for her. She still has a chance, as in it's still reasonably competitive, and things could change, but it's looking less and less likely like she's going to win. So I'm putting this in the likely column for him. So now we go over to Montana, where in a very weird situation, a few polls have put this as reasonably competitive, but most of them were Republican internal polls. I haven't seen a race where a poll that is nonpartisan show Rosendale ahead. And I mostly agree with Nate Silver on this one, and I also haven't seen anything to move this out of the likely column or out of the leans column for John Tester. And I'm probably next week, if there's another week of polling just like we've seen for the rest of the race. I'm probably going to move this into the likely column for Tester. Minnesota's special election, I'm going to put this into the likely column. Even though I've had it in the leans column, I just haven't seen any polls indicate that Tina Smith has reason to worry. She's pretty much wrapped it up. It's not 100% over, but it's darn near close. And if we go to Wisconsin, yeah, as we can see from the polls, there was a point when this race was maybe competitive, but not anymore. Tammy Baldwin is more than likely going to hold this one up. I know I've had it as leans for a long time, but I'm moving into likely category, and it's really close to going safe. I still see it as marginally competitive, but not by a whole lot. So now let's go on to Indiana, where maybe I underestimated Donnelly's ability to get away with voting no on Kavanaugh. And as we can see, movement has been sort of towards him, but not in any significant margin. I'm still going to put it as only a tilt towards him, towards Joe Donnelly over Mike Braun, but I can definitely see, I want to see more information. I want to see more polls before I change its rating. New Jersey, I'm moving this back into the likely column for incumbent Bob Menendez. Hugen is performing well, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to win it just because of how partisan the state is. And the nature of campaigning in this day and age. As for West Virginia, Joe Manchin voted yes, and that pretty much wraps up that campaign. I'm actually moving it into the safe column. That's how confident I am. Manchin is going to win in West Virginia. Patrick Morrissey, yeah, no, he's not going to be that competitive. So let's go on down to Tennessee, where for the first time in a long time, we get to change its rating from anything other than super competitive. Phil Bredesen, at least unfortunately if you're a Democrat, he got caught running an old school campaign in 2018. He was running a campaign based off of his credentials, his personal brand, in a nationalized election, and he was running based off of his reputation in the state and his belief that he is a representative of Tennessee, not a representative of what voters want in the national government. He got caught running the wrong campaign. Or I grew up hearing this. I grew up in an Army family, and I always grew up hearing that one of the worst mistakes a general can make is fighting the last war. Well, in politics, Phil Bredesen got caught running the last campaign. Basically, what it means is you're running on antiquated ideas. And when I say antiquated ideas, I don't mean his platform. I mean his style of campaigning and how he was getting his message out. So he was campaigning using antiquated tactics. And that's not to say he was advertising, in only newspapers or through posters and bumper stickers and buttons. His problem was he was campaigning on the wrong... He was branding himself improperly. If he wanted to... Unfortunately, the problem was I think he was doing the best thing. If he was trying to run from a federalized perspective and saying, yes, I can represent Tennesseans in the federal government, and I will represent these ideas that want to be heard nationally, I think he was doing it in the wrong... It's weird. I think he was making the right decisions in terms of platform. How he was messaging it, I think he did a poor job of, but I'm not sure how he could have actually truly improved. And we're going to move this into the likely Marsha Blackburn category. Now let's go down to Texas, where a lot of people are saying that O'Rourke is competitive. And yes, he is. But let's not kid ourselves. When we look at the average, here's the only poll showing O'Rourke ahead. And it was followed up with some information that was overlapped showing from another reputable pollster, showing Ted Cruz ahead by 9 points. That's an 11% difference, okay? So that means the average is 5.5 points between these two. So Ted Cruz by 3.5, essentially, right? Then we have one that shows the race even. Yeah, okay, whatever. 538 adjusted to a Democrat lead, but they adjusted this one to an even larger Republican lead, so... Then, of course, you have public policy polling releasing 2 polls that they factor in, and they include a massive House effect, whatever. I don't really factor these in. But then we see some not some Republican polls, but some nonpartisan polls showing reasonably large leads. And interestingly enough, Quinnipiac reaffirmed their results from a month before in a poll here, and then the most recent reputable nonpartisan pollster was here, showing a decent-sized Ted Cruz lead. So, looking at it, I've had it as leans, but as we get closer to Election Day, and probably, so I'm actually moving this into the likely Ted Cruz category from leans. This is more my remember, my ratings are based off of my confidence in my call. So the darker the shade, the more confident I am in my prediction. So a lean is a state that, like Montana or Arizona, where I believe that person has enough of an advantage where I would feel safe where I would feel okay truly calling the race. A tilt is a race where I believe it's 100% a true toss-up, a pick-em, where you can really pick whoever's going to win that race. But I believe one person or the other may have an advantage. However, I don't really have any real confidence in it. My confidence margin is 50-50, you know. That's a bad way to describe it. A tilt is, out of 100 elections, I expect the person I tilt a race to win between 50 and 53 of those. Between 54 and 60 is a lean, 60 to 80 is a likely. Anything above 80%, I'm considering safe. And that's how many elections out of 100 I would expect the candidate to win. So now let's go to Missouri, where I've had it as tilt to McCaskill. And let's talk about this. There was actually a point during the weekend where Hawley was ahead in all 3 versions of the forecast. Now it's back to McCaskill being ahead, even though for some weird reason there hasn't been any polling released showing McCaskill ahead. I think something fishy went on here, or they removed 1 or 2 polls showing Hawley ahead. Her no vote actually may come back to bite her in the rear end. And if you look at the polls, here we've got Ipsos, a very reputable pollster. The last time, have they pulled it before? No, okay. Fox News has pulled the race before. They showed it even at the start of October. They did early September showing McCaskill ahead. So there is movement towards Hawley. Let's see. Let's look at latest polls. Huh. Yeah, something sketchy on that, but whatever. A little sketchy on that. Well, this is all adults, so that's to be expected. When you look at this one, however, is a bit surprising. Gallup only does adults, and yet they found him very well approved. That's a reasonable result. Yeah, we should expect that. Emerson, yeah. Okay, I want to see if I was missing anything. Let's go back to the Senate forecast. So, in all honesty, I'm going to switch the tilt from McCaskill to Hawley because I honestly think he has a decent shot at winning, and I would expect him to win 50 to 53% of the time. If the election were held today, is essentially what it is, and where I think the election's going. So, if I have a race colored in, this is the person who I think would win, and the direction I think the polls are indicating the race is going. So, projected out, I would expect Arizona, I would project any state that's colored in to go to that candidate. Okay, so looking at Florida, Florida Southern hasn't polled the race. Florida is 100% a true toss-up. And I'm surprised they're showing Bill Nelson with his larger lead. That said, he did have a very good week of poll. He had some good weeks of polling from about the middle of September, but I want to see a little bit more information because both I think every single Florida campaign stopped during Hurricane Michael for the sake of working together to make sure the state wasn't hit too hard by the state. And I think Rick Scott's going to get some benefit out of how he does handling hurricane relief. But that's not enough to change my rating of the race from a tilt towards Bill Nelson. It really is a true pick'em, so I'm not going to disagree with you or say that you're 100% wrong. I think that's not helpful and just not useful. So let's look at some of the new governor's polls. New Hampshire, well, this is back to what we normally expected with Sununu up by double digits. I'm still going to keep it as a lean just because I'm a little skeptical of that, but Emerson's a pretty good pollster. Here we have another poll with Laxalt ahead. I'm looking for more. A few more polls in Nevada. It's basically a toss-up, but I think I'm going to defer to what I have had it as is hello? There we go. I can now tilt them. So I'm going to keep this as, if I remember correctly, I had it as tilting towards Laxalt. I'm not 100% positive. Pennsylvania, I think I've had this as basically safe Democrat for a while now. Minnesota is weird, but I think we're going to keep it as likely for the Democrats. Same with Michigan. We're keeping Connecticut and Rhode Island in the leans Democrat category. In Alaska, the Republican Dunleavy is ahead by enough that I'm actually putting in the likely category, and he is dominating both both his Democratic and Independent challengers. Tennessee, Bill Lee is just dominating. Texas, Greg Abbott's clearly winning. Arizona, Ducey is ahead in just about everything, and that's not going to change my rating of the race just yet. Ipsos, yeah, Evers is actually probably going to win this, but because of Scott Walker's really weird history of polling behind and then winning out of nowhere by more than he was behind, I can only lean this race to Evers, and that's not saying that I don't think the polls are. That's not saying I think the polls are wrong. It's saying for some weird reason it doesn't matter. Michigan, I think I already said that. Yeah, okay. Ohio, DeWine, yeah, I'm gonna lean this towards him as I have for a while now. California, yeah, Newsom's ahead. I think I marked that. So we're looking for Oregon, a few people. Yep. Okay, so let's go to governor's race. I probably want to show a few more. Okay. Yep. UGA, or University of Georgia, found a poll with Brian Kemp ahead recently. And that kind of matches it. I'm still only leaning the race towards him because Stacey Abrams is competing very well. But I think Abrams is not campaigning properly for Georgia. She's campaigning for the moderate vote. And I think I said this in my collab with Stellar Spark. But Stacey Abrams is campaigning as if Georgia is a normal swing state where you want to play towards the moderates, whereas Brian Kemp is trying to just turn out his base. Kemp is running a smarter strategy for Georgia. Abrams is running a strategy for Ohio. I don't think that's going to help out in the slightest. Okay. Let's go to the governor's races. Huh. There's a poll out that shows Cordray ahead. Huh. Go figure. And apparently Marquette Law School had a few polls with Walker ahead. That's weird. Massachusetts showing Baker ahead by ungodly margins. Rauner is getting trounced. Here's another poll showing Georgia is dead even. Here's another one showing Hogan is trouncing his opponent. Yeah, Minnesota, this is kind of what I expected. Arizona, good God, Ducey's crushing. Here's Colorado, yeah. That's what I thought is Jared Polis was going to win this. I'm actually moving into likely to Polis category for a lot of reasons. Here's another Kemp ahead poll. Oregon. And I want to make sure that this one. Okay.
As a single mother,
Nope, sorry about that. I don't want to include other things, but I'm still only going to lean Oregon to Kate Brown, but Newt Bueller is very competitive in that state, and if he plays his cards right, he can win that race. What other states do I need? I need Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma, Florida, and Maine. There we go. Here's Florida. Yeah, that's in line with most polls, with Gillum just slightly ahead. I believe I've had it as leaning Gillum, so I'm going to keep it there. Yeah, sorry. Well, I was focusing on the Senate so much that I kind of forgot where I had everything on the gubernatorial elections. Oklahoma governor, yeah, I kind of expected Stitt to eventually pull out ahead. I'm still only going to lean this towards Stitt, but I really don't have much. I think Oklahoma is still going to go to the Republican no matter what. And, well, here's a Kansas poll showing Kelly ahead from a traditionally Republican-leaning pollster. Kelly over Kobach. We go here. Okay. Let's see if I can find any more. Yeah, nope. Florida, Illinois, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia. Another even race in Georgia. Another Georgia one showing Kemp ahead. Here's Kansas showing Kobach ahead. I think I've seen this one. Honestly, I'm still going to only tilt Kansas to the Republican Kobach, but it is exceedingly competitive. And then Iowa, I believe the last polls I've seen show a Democrat ahead. I forget her name right now, but I'm going to keep that. In Maine, I haven't seen anything out, so I'm still only going to tilt it towards the Democrats. So what I'm looking at is 23 to 27. So here is what my 2019 governor's map would look like. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what my 2019 Senate map looks like. So, thank you everyone for watching. I'm sorry this took a little bit longer than I was anticipating, but these things happen. Take it easy. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.